Good morning, guys, from Farm Up. It's a very bright and sunny morning. So in my previous video about the goats and sheep, I told you guys how we have quite a number of goats and sheep. We have over 100 goats on the farm and over 300 sheep. And they all live in this enclosure right here. You guys can see them in the background. Let's go in and check it out. So here we are, right in the goats and the sheep shed. And most of them are just seated down chilling. I have some of them standing here. Most of them are over there in the shed chilling. The sun won't do me any justice because it's too bright. But you can see them, you can see the babies. They're just moving around. A lot of them are just chewing on their cud. You guys know how these goats and sheep are. They just go out to collect their food at midday. In the evening they come down, then they'll sit through the night. That's when I think they literally eat. That's when they chew on their food and they digest the food. So I'll take a quick walk around trying to identify if there are any sick ones, any that are not fine. Let's just move around, guys, and see. Okay, let's move around. Are you guys okay? Ooh, you guys can see that very many of them are crowded around this area. You can see that this side, in the sunny area that we had seen before, we didn't have so many goats and sheep. But over here, you can see so many goats and sheep, even right here. There are very many, and that's because they are hiding away from the sun. It's too bright on this side. The camera won't even compensate. But you can see over here, we have so many of them piling. And already, this is a problem. But I'll just try to move through them and see if they're fine, When you move through them, you'll see them move. One that's not fine will probably not move. Or, you could check for those ones that have some form of flu. Yeah, but they really don't want to move into the sun. I'll move them into the sun briefly. You can see this one here was breastfeeding. It's quite a big one, and it was breastfeeding. And this other sheep, you guys can see that this other sheep over there has a little tiny baby. Very tiny baby, but then there's an older sheep trying to breastfeed. This one is just stealing, trying to steal the other one's milk. What a shame, but you can't stop it because it just happens every time. You can see some goats over here. Yeah. Let's just move them into the sun. Hey guys, move. Okay, into the sun. All of you, I want to see if you guys are fine. Over here we have a pregnant goat. You guys can see her. Very big tummy over there. She has run away. They really won't move into the sun. So guys, over the last 24 hours, we've had about 5 lambs delivered. This is one of the lambs. You can see that she has just freshly been delivered. You can see the cord has just been cut off. And then the area where the lamb was delivered from is actually still very, very fresh. If I put him down, you would notice that he barely walks. He just walks with very, very weak feet. So that's 5 lambs delivered by the sheep in the last 24 hours. That was from 3 sheep. 3 sheep have given us 5 lambs. So one gave us 2, another gave us 2, another gave us 1. That's a really, really good return. Unfortunately for the goats, it's not as much. If we would keep up such a rate, 5 every day, that would be perfect. But usually we do 2, 1, sometimes none, sometimes 4. And over the last 24 hours, it's been perfect, I'll put him down because the mother is crying. So guys, if you look at this, our goat shed, it certainly can't support the capacity that we have. It's too small. This is all that it is. You guys can see, you see the background. The length is probably 15 meters or less. The width should maybe be around 7 meters. So it's not very big. And you can see there's lots of sheep and goats in here, but there's still a lot that's outside. Unfortunately, it's too bright, but there's still too much that's outside. The ones that are out are more than what's inside. And that means the capacity is not good enough. In case it rains, these animals are going to get wet. They'll find themselves squeezing themselves together, and then some of them won't be in a really healthy state. So it's just not big enough. Number 2, the floor is quite messy. You guys can sit down. We built this floor using marram, It's just marram on the floor. And the problem with that is that the goats and the sheep seem to love the marram, so they'll occasionally try to bite it and feed on it, and that creates holes, and even just the trampling on it, it creates holes in here. Now what happens is that we try to clean this place, very often. But the problem with that is that even if you clean, you're going to have the feces, this goat dung. You guys can see it here, the droppings from the goats. You're going to have them fill those places, and that could cause infection. So the floor is just not good enough. The third problem is the type of the structure. You guys can see the type of the structure we have here. It's not raised, it's just on the ground. It was really well built in terms of the material that they used, but it's not like the perfect goat type structure, in that it makes cleaning really hard. Usually what you want for goats is that you want a raised structure. That way you have less cleaning to do. The droplets just pass through the pieces of timber on the floor. Number two, the goats have very little access to their dung. So the raised structure even provides for better management. So right here, guys, we have another section of the goat house. You guys can see that we had put marram inside. Actually, I'll just walk in there. I'll move out. So this section over here with this entrance is actually a section that we use for keeping the kids, the young goats. It's very, very important because during the day, when the rest of the goats and the sheep go out to feed, the kids and the lambs stay in here because they can't move a lot. They won't be able to move the long distances. They don't really eat the grass. So if you move with them, they'll just disturb the person who is, looking after them. So we keep them behind here, and they'll just stay around, move around, play around. And then in the evening, when we bring the goats and the sheep back, they will breastfeed. And then in the night, we bring them to sleep in here. We make sure they don't sleep with the rest of the goats, because what happens is that in case something scares the little sheep or the goats or all of them, they run into a corner, and if you have any of the lambs or the kids in there, they're going to be pressed and they will die. Now we've experienced that, and I have first-hand experience. So that's why I had to make sure that we separate the kids so they all come and sleep in here. This is the wheelbarrow, guys, we used for cleaning, in here. We put the dung in here and we can pour it out in a pile. So this is a section that we use for the kids. Now, we need other sections, but we don't have them. Why would I say we need other sections? Number one, for separating the goats and the sheep. Now, why on earth would I need to separate the goats and the sheep? Guys, from stuff that I've heard and read a little bit, apparently it's not good to have the goats and the sheep together. Apparently one stunts the growth of the other. Now guys, this is not a confirmation. I wouldn't say I'm an expert at goats and sheep. I've been in this for a really short time. I'm not very naive though. I've tried to do some reading about it, but I'm no expert. I'll just try to confirm. What I know is that they say it's not good to keep them together. So that's one of the things. We want to separate the goats and the sheep. The one thing I know is that the sheep eat way more than the goats. I know that. But if they're just moving out and feeding, I don't know why they would need to be separated. Number two is male management. So what happens is that every time you have kids being produced, guys, this is really interesting. You guys might not be able to see. It's probably too bright. Let me make it a little bit dimmer. Oh yes, right there in the background, right at that point, you guys can see that we have a sheep that's breastfeeding its baby. But at the background, you have a little goat. Oh, you can see the mother has now chased her away. We have a little goat that's also stealing the milk. So what happens is that that little kid over there, the mother doesn't have lots of milk. So the little kid has learned how to steal milk. It has learned how to scavenge for milk. So it always moves. When it finds another mother breastfeeding, it comes in from behind, because it knows if it comes from the front, the mother will detect that that's not her because of the scent. So it comes in from behind and steals the milk. That's what was happening. Anyway, back to the point. So what happens is that we keep getting kids and lambs produced every day. Some of them are males, some of them are female. We have a fixed number of males, both for the sheep and for the goats, that can mount. Now, the problem that brings is that as the young males grow, they could mate with their mothers or siblings. And that's something you don't want in any generation, whether it's human beings, whether it's chickens, whether it's goats, sheep, cattle. You don't want inbreeding, because you're going to have a bad trait of genes. You're going to have animals produced that are lame. You're going to have animals produced that have very weird genes. You're going to have lots of miscarriages. And so how do you deal with such a problem? There are two options. Number one, castrating the males. Yeah, you just castrate all of them. That way you don't have to deal with, having them inbreed. But the problem with that is that some people could be against castration. Number two, you could want to sell the males for breeding on other farms. So you want them to grow up, and then when they're able to mate, you want to sell them. That means you can't castrate them. So what do? You need to separate them. You need to separate the two different flocks. So for us, we don't want to sell the males just for meat. No, we actually want to be able to sell them for meat. The plan is that I'm going to be getting some really, really good pure breeds of goats so that we increase the number of males on the farm and get really, really good breeds that we can sell for mating for other farms. And that means that we're going to have to build another bigger structure that we can use for separating these flocks. So all the young males will need to be separated, and then the young females will also need to be separated so that they're not mounted by their fathers. That way, the new type and flock will be mounted by another kind of he-goat, probably one that we have to buy from outside. So speaking on that note, we've had to increase the capacity and the size of the goat's house. We're going to be building the bigger goat's house, and the work has already started, guys. You guys can see this. We probably started with what should have been the last thing, but we've already installed a gate for the new fence. So you can see a metallic gate over here. This is the pillar supporting it on one side, and this is the gate on the other side. And what's going to happen is that you guys can see the goat shed. That's the goat shed in the background, the one we've been in the entire time. It's going to be running along this point. So right here, you see this. This is a foundation that has been dug running along the entire length. What's happening is that we're going to cut off a section of the cattle area, the cattle shed, the kraal, where the cattle would usually stay. We're going to cut off a section of it, and then this whole area, which is probably around 3 acres, is all going to be a goat shed. So we are going to be building a very, very huge structure. For now, I'm not really certain of how big it's going to be because I've got conflicting data on the internet. I'm trying to find out exactly how big the goat structure needs to be, what spacing that we need, because the goal is to have at least 1,000 goats. Without the sheep, at least 1,000 goats. So this whole area that you guys see, this whole green area, until the fence over there, all that is going to be a goat house. Well, not all of it is going to actually be a goat house, but all of that is going to be like the goat chilling place. The way you see there is a goat chilling area over here. The goats chill there, and then their structure is just there. Same thing. We're going to build a really long structure, maybe 60 meters or so, and maybe 10, 12 meters wide for the goats to stay in. It's going to be a raised structure. That will enable us separate the flocks and give us really, really good management. Guys, I'm so excited about this, like so excited. And the goat structure is going to be made from wood. Typically wood. We're not going to build anything from concrete, no. This is, I think, really wasting resources and the money, and that money is really not there. So we're just going to be building from wood. You guys can see the point I was talking about. This is where we dump all the goat manure. So right here, this is the goat manure that we pick from the goat shed. We just come and dump it here, and then we shall later on, after some time when it has stayed and a lot of the acidity has gone away, we just carry it and go and pour it in the banana plantations we have around and some of the gardens. So that's what we do with all the manure. But yeah, what do you guys think? The plan is 1,000 goats, guys, minimum 1,000 goats in the next maybe 1 to 2 years. So help me God. That's the goal. So what do you guys think? Really, really good plan. Any ideas? What's the spacing? Because I've tried to read up. The information is probably not the best. I'll probably need to buy a book or look for a goat specific book for tropical regions, because I know these animals are raised differently in temperate regions, you know, regions with winter and summer. Over here for us it's summer all year round. We don't have any snow. If it goes down to 18 degrees Celsius, I feel like I'm freezing. For other people, they feel like they would be burning. So it's quite different over here, and we raise everything differently. Otherwise, thanks guys for watching. Lots of love. In case of any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Lots of love. Bye bye.